Hi, this is Katey DeCelle with Minnesota Capitol News, and I'm here at the Capitol with Tim Holden, who is running for mayor of St. Paul this election. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thanks for being here. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about your education and your background?
Yeah, my education. Went to school at St. Thomas Academy, and after that I went on to school at St. Cloud State. I have a commercial license in real estate and also have a license in contracting. Did a little bit of background in peace enforcement and police officer. Have a background in working with kids at the St. Cloud Children's Home. Also have my contracting business. 25 years I've been self-employed, so I guess I'm familiar with running businesses and small business and working with people. We've had quite a few years of business, and I've been blessed. Worked in St. Paul for over 20 years now, and I live in the Hamlin Midway area. After graduating college, I can't remember if I moved back with my parents temporarily, but I am over in the Midway right now, and it's been good. It's been good. St. Paul is a good city. When I get elected mayor, I want to make it a great city, the best city in the world. So.
Thanks. So you said you are a small business owner currently, or you own properties currently? What is like your day job now?
My day job now is, yes, I do. I have rental properties, and I am overseeing my rental properties throughout the city. That is pretty much my day job. And I've been, my residential remodeling business is also something that I do on the side, but primarily it's my rental properties at this time, and that's my basic.
Thanks. Okay, let's talk about some issues. What do you plan to do about police accountability or criminal justice reform? Do you have any ideas on how to make police more transparent in what they're doing?
It's a fantastic question. With my background in law enforcement, I actually went through the Police Skills Academy, worked with St. Paul Police, the force unit a little bit, and there's a definite need to have the police accountable in all respects, in all aspects. And they have a difficult job, but it's very important that they are extremely transparent and open about what they're doing, why they're doing it. We have a real problem in St. Paul at this time. Shootings are up over 75%, which is unacceptable. We really need to find a way to stop the shootings in St. Paul. To be a city that people are going to want to come and stay and live in, we need to minimize the crime. And not coinciding with the shootings, we have a lot of issues with poverty, over 40% poverty rate. And that's a huge problem, huge, unacceptable. The current mayor, 12 years in his position, shame on him. Unacceptable. 40% plus poverty is not acceptable for the capital city, period. Police body cameras are a big issue right now. That's to help somewhat with the transparency, and it's a newer process, and it's something that I think will be not only an aid to the citizens but also to the police. It's kind of funny. People ask me questions, and when we are on the side just having a little fun, the people that really need to wear the body cameras are the politicians, not the police, the politicians.
Besides poverty, why do you think the shootings are up 75% in St. Paul?
We have a lot of youth that are really lacking direction, and I think that's a huge issue. We have kids having kids, and the kids that are out there on the street are trying to survive. A lot of them go to school hungry. They're taking care of themselves, and they're doing everything they can to survive. We need to focus on our children, and that's the most important thing we can do as a society, is to educate our children and give them the best education possible. But it is important that we work to do a better job of raising and directing our children than we are. When they go to school, they need to be ready to go to school and prepared, and the teachers have a difficult job. I believe yesterday on the news there was another fight and gun and knife at St. Paul Central High School. Unacceptable, period. One time, you mess up one time, you're gone, done. The rules are there for a reason. These kids need to realize that we're trying to help them. We want everyone to have a good education, and the only way to do that is to make sure that there's safety in the schools, not only for the kids, but for the teachers, for everyone. And that's extremely important.
So when you say safety in the schools, would you put like more police officers in schools? How would you make sure that people are safe and there's no more shootings or stabbings in schools?
More officers in the school, I don't really want to go that direction. I believe there can be other ways to go about keeping safety in the schools. Well, when you go through go into the schools, there should probably be some kind of an alarm, I guess, so there's no way that knives and guns can get into the school. I mean, we're at that point. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are as a society. A lot of these are societal problems, and you know, when people and kids especially don't have direction and they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, we need to take heed and try and keep everyone safe. And that's the bottom line, safety. And then education comes along with that, but it's hard to educate kids and try to focus on things when you're scared for your life in the school.
Maybe on a more proactive note before they get into schools, what else can we do to, you had mentioned like kids having kids, or, you know, maybe is there another program or another idea you have that will keep, stop the violence before it starts?
The teachers have a very difficult job, and stopping the violence before it starts is, you know, a wonderful idea, but again, let's look at reality. I mean, a lot of these kids don't have direction. They're coming from homes where there's a lot of trouble at home. Some of these kids don't even have homes. Their parents are maybe incarcerated, and there's a variety of things that these kids are going through. You know, if there's a way to minimize the trouble and minimize the violence, that's the most important thing, safety in the schools. Some of these kids have mental health issues that we need to address and deal with, and maybe that's an issue we need to really focus on, having a separate system for that type of a individual. Putting all the kids into one pot and trying to make everything work sometimes doesn't work. I mean, there's just so many kids that are at the school, and the enrollment is so high, with just a tremendous background, variety of backgrounds and family lives that are coming in. Some are prepared, some are not prepared. So it's a daunting task, and we need to really work on it. It's something St. Paul, you know, with the amount of money that we spend on education, we really need to do a better job. And it starts with listening to what the families need, looking at the children, listening to the children themselves. And when the kids do well in school, we have to let them know. We have to give them a hug. We have to appreciate it. Give them love. These kids need to feel love, and if they don't, that's not good. Encourage them.
What about outside the schools? What can we do to help these kids?
Outside of the schools, you know, there are different parks and rec programs that would be nice to put in place. Possibly even, you know, having, and it would be quite an undertaking, but have seniors help some of these kids. These kids need direction, they need guidance, and they need somebody they can look up to and ask questions. And that's huge. Having a mentor, they need to have mentors. You asked about the police. My recommendation, if I become mayor, every police officer will work with children to find a way to help them out and give them some guidance and direction. The police will be held accountable, and again, take care of the youth. They need help, they need direction. We need to work on that, and I believe we can minimize shootings and minimize some of the crime that we have if that's the case.
Thank you. Let's move on to a different subject
Sure.
here. Thanks. You were opposed to the soccer stadium being built, is that correct?
I was not, I'm not going to say I was totally opposed to it. It's how it was brought about and how it's been handled. We have people with very, very deep pockets that are now in control of probably one of the best, highest traffic locations, best development locations in the state of Minnesota, 94 and Snelling. Spending any TIF money there would be absolutely an abomination. We have the ability to do a wonderful thing in that location, and the community hasn't had hardly any input whatsoever. Things are being passed. The city voted on things, $18+ million for infrastructure improvements. The master plan was never even shown and disclosed. These are things that are happening in down in the Ford Parkway site for the Ford plant, and the same thing is happening there. We have an administration that is basically dictating what they want to do, and that's another location that needs to be put on hold until everybody has a voice, and that's very important. The community needs a voice. Everyone needs a voice, and it's not happening. It hasn't happened for 12 years. That's why I'm running for mayor. We want to give people a voice, and the reality is, give the people what they deserve.
So if you are elected mayor, what are your plans for the Ford plant?
Again, as I mentioned, I'm not from the Highland Park area. There are people that have lived there their entire lives. I would listen to them. I was asked a question before. I would put a couple people in charge. I mentioned if I was elected mayor, I would put on my team, because fixing the problems that St. Paul has right now is not a one person, not a man or a woman job. It's a multiple faceted job. I would try to keep Pat Harris. I think he's a wonderful man. I would also talk to the council person down there and have both of them take feedback on what the constituents, the citizens down in Highland Park would like to see happen. That's what we need to do. That's how developments should happen. We should take feedback from the citizens, ask them what kind of things they'd like, the density, the zoning, the height of buildings, all of these different things, the traffic, need to be taken into consideration. And ramming it down the throats of the people in Highland Park, unacceptable. Unacceptable. It happened with the Saints Stadium, it's happening with the soccer stadium, and they're trying to do it with the Ford site. Shame on the city of St. Paul, the administration that's in place now.
So being that you are from the Hamlin Midway neighborhood where the soccer stadium is being built, if you had been mayor, what would you have done differently during that construction or the agreements to have it be built there?
I would have had much more community interaction input. There was virtually none. We're losing businesses now that have been in business for 20 plus years. Family businesses that are out of business, that are going out of business because of this development. And we were told that none of that would happen. These businesses would all be safe. Well, that's not the case. We are not keeping the businesses. They are going out. Midway Bowl has been there for many, many years. Wonderful gentleman that owns the business is now going to be out of business. There's a time and place for everything. We could have done a lot better job taking community input. We have no place for parking. We have no further development beyond the soccer stadium that I'm aware of. Zero. A soccer stadium. And let me just talk about the soccer stadium, Mr. McGuire. Mr. McGuire, where did he get a lot of his money? I'm very curious. We never had a real good talk about the funds that are coming in to pay for the soccer stadium. Well, I believe backdating stock options was a part of his resume, and that's unacceptable. So you have a person who's got a bunch of money, and he's also being involved with Taylor, Polad, and a few of these other super rich individuals, which is, I think it's ridiculous. We're going to subsidize 50 years of taxes in a location, one of the highest, most wonderful locations for development in the state for 50 years. Unacceptable. And I would definitely say we should have had 12 years ago when Mayor Coleman was involved, we should have had that site maybe put on the market at that time. Maybe we would have had some competition where we're not just subsidizing and giving away all kinds of free taxes for 50 years. We're always talking about tax issues and tax problems and paying for things. Well, how are we going to get out of the mess when we keep subsidizing everything that happens? The only development that happens in St. Paul is subsidized. That's also an abomination.
So what would you do to attract business investments in St. Paul?
I would listen to the businesses first and foremost. That hasn't happened for 12 years. I'm a small business owner. Hasn't happened. Haven't seen the city councilman, Russ Stark. Haven't seen him in my business for 12 years. City council people should be in the businesses a couple times a year to find out what the businesses want and need. That's for sure. The businesses need to be listened to. I would work on listening to private business and giving people a voice in the business realm. We have a tremendous amount of different national backgrounds and diversity in our area. I know there's a lot of STAR grants and all these different funds that are put out for businesses to try and generate business. Well, before we're giving a bunch of money out and subsidizing a bunch of businesses, it'd be nice to see their resume and know what they're capable of doing and know what their accounting background is and if they've paid taxes and some of these things. But yeah, there's a need to listen to business, small business, and that would be a huge undertaking, and that's something that needs to happen day one. We need to fill downtown. We've got a downtown that's relatively, I think, 25% vacancy rate. Unacceptable. We need to fill downtown, create a tax base. The tax base will help take care of city services that are necessary to run the capital city.
So you ran for mayor in 2013, is that right?
Yes, I ran against Coleman in 2013. He allowed me one debate.
Why, besides that, do you think you lost the election?
Well, I'll tell you, and this is the reality. The unions, it's a city of unions. The politicians are basically bought by the unions, all right? And that's the reality. I'm not asking for campaign contributions. I want your mind, not your money. Well, I worked hard in 2013. I've been campaigning for mayor here, I guess, for almost 5 years now. Mayor Coleman allowed me one debate, 5 days before the election. If people want to, they should go and listen to it. Curtis Gilbert wrote a story. Mayor Coleman gets raked over his record. Listen to the debate. It's a 1-hour debate. It talks about all the issues: crime, poverty, education, a variety of things. Mayor Coleman, 4 years ago, was doing not very good job. In my eyes, things have not gotten any better. They have not gotten any better whatsoever.
You mentioned the unions.
Yes. Talk about the unions that you previously.
Yeah, you asked how people are elected, and I really believe a lot of it has to do with funding. Funding is huge. The unions control St. Paul, and they're really heavily involved in the costs of campaigns, which is another thing that should be looked at. Campaign reform, finance reform should be a huge thing that should be addressed. I'm self-funding my campaign. I did back in 2013. I don't want your money. I want your mind. The city of St. Paul has a tremendous amount of problems. Money isn't going to solve them. It's only going to make them worse. We need to look at the issues, listen to the people what the priorities are. And then once we have all the issues and the priorities put on a piece of paper, we need to listen to the smartest people we know and hire the smartest people we can to figure out how to solve the problems. But when we're talking about campaign contributions and we're talking about begging for money, not the way I roll, not me. I'm not banging my war chest. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to give you what I think is right. And the reality is, I'm the most qualified candidate to do the job. Save St. Paul.
What else besides the campaign contributions differentiates you from your opponents this year?
My background in business. 25 years successfully running a small business. working with people, dealing with people on a daily basis. The reality is that's what needs to happen in St. Paul. We need to listen to one another. We need to have a business background. We need to create commerce, the capital city. We have a 40+% poverty problem in St. Paul. For the capital city, that is atrocious. Atrocious. And the current mayor wants to run for governor. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the guy can look in the mirror.
I heard in a previous interview that if you lost this election, you would run for governor against Chris Coleman. Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure what will happen after this. I'm going to do my best here with this election. As I mentioned, I was given one debate in the last election in 2013. This time, now we've got, between now and I think November 7th, there's like 25 different events that have been set up. That kind of gives you an idea of how the whole town and the whole party thing rolls. You've been predominantly one party for the last 60 years. It's time to open up your minds. The one party isn't solving the problems, it's making the problem worse.
Who do you think your biggest opponent is this race?
Well, they say that you need to look at who has the money, and I think that's the worst thing to do. I think the smartest man in the race, I'd like to work with Tom Goldstein. I like the man. We have a lot of the same ideas on things. And I told Tom Goldstein if I win, he's the deputy mayor. I've got positions for Melvin Carter, Pat Harris, Elizabeth Dickinson, for everyone. I'll find a position for all of them. This city needs to have multiple people take on the issues that we have. Not one person can't solve all these problems. If we have a police officer brutally beat a black man with a nightstick and with his boot, that police officer will not be on the department anymore. I'll find a way to get rid of him. We're not going to pay out $2-some million legal settlements for police officers that have a problem. I feel sorry for that police officer. He's obviously got a lot of issues that he needs to deal with. Okay? Those are issues that I won't accept on my police department. Period. If we have kids that really have some issues, they come to school and they're not prepared, they have a mental health issue, they have different things like that need to be addressed, or they don't really fit in with a lot of the other kids, we might need to address some of those issues because they're detracting from the total class atmosphere, and that's a huge issue. We've got a lot of issues, like I mentioned, in St. Paul, and it's going to take multiple people to solve all these issues, not just one person. Well, it's going to hit me directly, effectively. It's mostly going to hit the people a lot harder that have commercial properties, and I have commercial properties. So when I heard that, it didn't surprise me. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I said to Fred Mello in the paper, I said, what next? What next? I think whoever's going to take the reins as mayor is going to find a lot of problems that have been kind of hidden and kept secret, and once they take over, they're going to find a lot of things are problematic, not just this. So I'm whoever does take the position, I say get ready.
Republican?
Absolutely not. No, I'm an independent. Party's the problem. I repeat, party is the problem. Candidates need to listen to people on both sides, listen to green, black, blue, white, I don't care who you are, what you are. I'm going to listen to everyone. And then I'm going to use my best common sense and background and judgment to make the decision as to what's the best solution for the problem. Party is the problem. Political experience, in my eyes, is similar to running a small business. You need to listen to people. You need to work to try and better your situation, your environment that you're in. You need to find a way to make things fiscally responsible and solvent. And that's my background. I guess my background is when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I'll give you your time to talk. I might not make everyone happy, but I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. I'm a straight shooter in that respect, and the bottom line is we need somebody like that. I'm a very fair landlord. I have tenants that have been with me for over 15 years, and I have tenants that haven't been with me for, a year. It just depends on the situation and if they're paying their rent. I do my very best to be the best landlord I can be. I've worked with people that have had mental issues, And, you know, I do my best to try and help people sometimes that have problems. And that can be a problem in itself for me, but I've done my very best. So I try to help out people that are having problems. And that's something that our city and our society needs to do across the board, is to look out on behalf of the small person. Help people that need help. As a property owner from the city, we have to listen to what businesses want and need. And property, the taxes, like you just mentioned, are going to go up 25% for a lot of commercial people. Where does that money come from? There's only so many hours in the day. When you're running a shop, I mean, it's hard for you to jack up your prices 25% to cover the cost of some of these things. Why are we in this position? 25% it's unacceptable. Taxes have been going up steadily for the last 12 years since this administration's been in place. This last one is like a kick, you know, a good kick. It's just, it's unacceptable. And that's why, like I say, I think there's going to be a lot more problems that are hidden right now that aren't going to surface until Mr. Coleman leaves.
What are your thoughts on the living wage ordinance? Are you for $15 an hour? And if so, how would you assure that small businesses could afford to pay their employees?
It would be wonderful. Back in 2013, it would be wonderful to have everyone be able to earn $15 an hour. Is that a reality? I don't think so. We have small businesses that just don't have the cash flow to make that happen, and that's something we need to look at. When you increase the costs of wages, you're going to have to increase the cost of the services and the goods. So it's a reality check. I'm for trying to raise the wage, but small businesses, I believe, are going to have to be exempt. The reality is if we push things enough in St. Paul, we have so many issues with zoning and regulations and red tape as it is, and then trying to mandate some of these things, mandatory safe and sick time, mandatory $15 an hour, you're going to have a lot of businesses walk down the road. They're going to move on. And I'm going to be reality frank with you. That's the bottom line. There are industries that can maybe afford to pay it, certain size businesses that can do that, but the real small mom and pop shops, I don't believe they're not going to be able to make it. And I want to give people, we need to create commerce in the city. I mean, we need to find a way to listen to businesses, appreciate businesses, and then frequent them, use them. The small businesses that lost their businesses up and down University Avenue was atrocious. We lost over 100 businesses. You go up and down the avenue now, I hate to say it, but behind my building where I'm located, it's like a garbage dump. I mean, we've got shirts, clothes, it's terrible. And when they were supposed to put a new parking lot back there after the light rail happened, all this wonderful stuff was going to happen. Well, nothing has happened. Haven't seen the councilman, don't know where he's gone. He's running every which way but loose, but not taking care of the people in his backyard, which is unfortunate. We need to get into the businesses, we need to listen to the businesses, and find a way to give the businesses what they want. Cut the red tape. Let them go to work. Get out of the way. Get out of the way with all the regulations and all the red tape. Put people back in positions of power where they can go to work. Create commerce. Private commerce.
So what are your thoughts on the proposed light rail on West 7th?
I haven't a whole lot of background with the light rail on West 7th. I believe this light rail that we have down University Avenue is costing a lot more than they had anticipated. The upkeep, the maintenance, and I think they need to really address that issue before they start to build anymore or think about it anymore. We've got a lot of other issues besides transit right now that I think need to be addressed. Poverty, crime. Shootings up 75% in the capital city. It's unheard of, unacceptable.
Why do you want to be mayor? Why in your heart are you running again?
I want to be mayor because I like St. Paul, and I want the people in St. Paul to have the best life they can have. I want St. Paul to be the best place in the world to live. And it can be. I can't do it alone. Like I said, we've got some wonderfully smart people that I would try and bring on my team. And when we do have that ability, if we get to that point, we will try and surround ourselves with the best people we can possibly find. We will listen to the community. We will solve problems from the ground up. I will not mandate soccer stadiums. I will not mandate Ford Park development. I will listen to what the community wants. That's what we need. Somebody that'll listen and work on behalf of the people, the small people, all people.
I think that's about all the questions we have, unless there's more Facebook Live ones. Nope. All right. Is there
Thanks.
anything else that you wanted to add?
Save the city. Save St. Paul. Tim Holden for mayor November 7th. We'll take care of business.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
This is Katey DeCelle with Minnesota Capitol News here at the Capitol with independent Tim Holden running for mayor this November. Until next time.